All right, shalom, shalom to the nation of Israel, shalom. All right, this is your brother Kazakia out of Great Millstone, New Orleans, coming at you with another lesson through the spirit of power, Yahweh Shimon Shah, right? But prior to getting started, we want to give all infinite honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Harakakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles at Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Peace, blessings, and salutations be to the whole full elect, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, all right? And the title of today's lesson is going to be Increase Your Effort and the Lord will do the rest, all right? That's the title of today's lesson is going to be Increase Your Effort and the Lord will do the rest, all right? And, right now, you basically, you might be feeling like, hey, look, you got this car, you just brought it, and you're the car spiritually, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes you need maintenance done, okay? Sometimes you need, you may need gas, right? And you may be feeling like, hey, look, I'm running out of gas, spiritually, but, ultimately, hey, look, don't be slothful, or do your best not to be slothful or sluggard, right? Continue to constantly increase and work in the spirit, man. And the Lord will do all the rest, man. Pray to Yah Bashim al Shai that he increase your diligence, right? Which will, help you to be, disciplined, so to speak, okay? And we're gonna go ahead and get the first precept really quickly. All right, this is Proverbs 13 and verse 4. It says, the soul of the sluggard desireth and have nothing, right? Okay, because when you basically, if you're slugging, right, you're lacking, okay? You're lacking within work, so to speak, okay? Right? And let's go get that word real quick. Let's get this word. All right, basically slothful, okay? Let's see if we get it from online etymology really quickly. It's up here. All right, this is the word sluggard from the online etymology, late 14th century. Slogard is someone who's habitually lazy person, man. Okay. So, don't be that guy, man. Don't be a habitually, lazy person, man. That's, somebody who's, I know for sure will be aggravating to deal with because, hey, look, the Lord called us, to basically be workers, man. And we work. Okay, workers work, right? We're in the Lord's vineyard. He hired us, to be in his vineyard. You know what I'm saying? So don't be the guy, that comes to work late, man. Don't be the guy that also, comes into work. He's not late coming into work, but he basically, half-assed the job. You know what I'm saying? And, spiritually, I start myself first and foremost, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim al Shai. Just basically saying, hey, look, do a better job. You know what I'm saying? You can always do a better job, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim al Shai. The Lord is always looking for more out of the individual, man. And like the title of today's lesson is the increase in effort, man. The increase in effort, right? The Lord would also increase, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding and things that you need in order to be sustained while increasing that effort, man, which is a, beautiful thing, right? And I read the scripture again. It says the soul of the sluggard, right? And we just looked that up. It says a habitually lazy person. Don't always be a lazy person, man. And it says desire it and have nothing, right? You, because you're not working, man. You're lazy. You know what I'm saying? You want, you want to go and work on your car, but you never go and actually work on your car, right? And you always say you're going to get around to doing it, right? Which is same thing as procrastination, for a person that's procrastinating, right? Basically a person that says they're going to do something, but they never really do it. And all of it stems off of them being lazy. Okay. Don't be that guy. Okay. And it says, like I said, the title to today's lesson, increase your effort and the Lord will do the rest. All right. It says, but the soul of the diligent, okay, shall be made fat. Now, let's see See if they got something in here for diligent. All right, it says a trench dug, a threshing. Did I click on the right word? Let's see here. Let's go get it out the online etymology, same as we did here. Give us a better definition, right? Right. This is the word diligent from out of the online etymology dictionary. It says constant, right, in effort to accomplish what is undertaken, right? And what are we undertaking, right? We basically, like I said, we've been hired by Yahweh Shimon Shah to go out and do his work, to go out and do his will, okay? And so we're constantly what? Working, man. We're constantly putting forth effort to, bring forth the Lord's truth, man, his word, you're right? We're in the Lord's ministry, so to speak, okay? And this is also a very serious job, right? Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to read the whole thing. Matter of fact, I'll read it in a GNT, right? And it says, no matter how much a lazy person may want something, he will never get it. Okay, it says a hard worker will get everything he wants, man. Okay, and you want the prize, ultimately, you want the reward, okay? Ultimately, you got to do what? You got to work for it, man. Ultimately, okay? You have to work for it. So, increase your effort, and the Lord gonna do the rest, man. If you, having troubles, right? Kind of stand in the spirit, or you feel like you're a little slothful or slugger, pray on it through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shah, right? And the Lord gonna do, what it is that needs to be done, all right? All right, let's go and let's go get another precept in this same book here. All right, this is Proverbs 10 and verse 4. It says, he becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, right? And you usually see a spiritual decline on somebody who basically just kind of stop doing the work. Okay, somebody who once was diligent, they once was on fire, they was disciplined, but they not doing those things anymore. Okay, they're not doing the work, they're not doing the will, whatever it is. They're not showing up for camp, or they're not doing whatever live lessons are planned out. Okay, that person is what, man? They're basically a spiritually, and I'll probably also a physically lazy person, man. Okay, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna finish it in the KJV. They're gonna read it in the GNT. It says, "But the hand of the diligent maketh rich." Right. So if you're constantly doing the work, you're doing the will, you're studying, you're going over what you need to go over. You're praying on the things that you lack on, and praying that the Lord increases your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding on where you're lacking at, right? You're paying for faith, okay? And you want to see you want to see an increased effort within the works, okay? Or you are increasing in those efforts, is going to make you what? Rich, man, okay? And we're talking about spiritual riches. We're not talking about physical riches, right? The same way somebody works in the world, right? And I'll just use this basketball player, Steph Curry, right? The same way he practices, right? He shoots the shot, every single day. He's in the gym. He's putting up 500, however many plus a day. He's working out to do what? To perfect his craft, to be perfect, so to speak, in the things that he do. So when game time comes, he can go ahead and perform at an extremely high level. And it may seem amazing, right? Which it is amazing to an ordinary person, but it's effortless to him, right? But that's because what? Right? To get to that point, he increased his effort, man, right? So spiritually, that's what we got to do, we in the times of, really, grinding, really grinding those gears to really, be the best possible. If you've been called to be a prophet or a teacher of some sort, or whatever, be the best possible one you could be, man. Pray that the Lord increases your faith, man, and your works, toward him. All right. But I'm going to read the same one in the GNT. It says, being lazy will make you poor. Okay. Being lazy will make you poor, but hard work will make you rich, right? That's playing the pulling tables, right? If you're a lazy person, you're not going to receive anything. Okay. But if you're working towards something, you want to do, you want to be better, you got to do better in order to be better. Okay. And doing right requires actions. All right. Let's go ahead and get another precept. Another precept real quick. All right, this is Ecclesiastes 9 and verse 10. It says, whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave, whither thou goest. Okay, so, hey, look, the Lord gave you his word, right? He gave you the truth. He gave you the, he allowed you within the body. He gave you the, the ministry. He gave you prophets. He gave you brothers. Okay. You're coming to serve the Lord, right? Do it with everything you got. You know what I'm saying? Okay. If you're a guy that likes to work out, okay, you want to see gains, what do you do in the gym, man? You bench press, right? Or you might work on quads, right? Which, basically, go into squats. Okay. Whatever it is, man, you're always looking for what? You're looking for gains. So we do the same thing spiritually, right? We're looking for what? Spiritual gains through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah, right? Yeah, on your last set, your last few reps are hard reps, man. Okay, and you may go to 10, on that last set. But sometimes, you might try to push the body to, instead of going to 10, going to 12, right? Or 13, right? And what is that doing? It's you trying to increase your effort within the body. So we do the same thing, in the spirit, Now, we're not trying to break ourselves, but we're just trying to try harder to do things and make sure things get done in the spirit, All right, let's go ahead and get another precept. All right, this one there won't be too long. Let's go to, where is this? All right, this is Hebrews 6 and verse 11. It says, and we desire that every one of you do shew the same diligence to the full assurance of hope unto the end. Okay. All right, I'm going to read that again. It says, and we desire that every one of you do show the same diligence to the full assurance of hope unto the end. All right. And I'm going to read the same thing in the GNT. It says, our great desire is that each of you keep up your eagerness. Okay. Keep up being hungry, right? You want to be fed in the spirit. You got to work in order to be fed in the spirit. All right. And it says to the end, right? That you go all the way through, because you can't stop at the finish line and have a seat. You got to go through that spiritual tape, right? Or a banner or whatever it is that they break in order to get that first place. All right. So that the things you hope for will come true. And what do we hope for, man? We hope for the return of Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay. We hope for the return. We hope for the kingdom of heaven, right? We hope for righteousness to be, declared throughout all the planet of the earth. Okay. We want to see, basically, the nation of Israel back on top, man. Okay. Those are the things that is held within our hope, right? And the same type of desire that they have, okay, is the same type of desire we want to have, right? Okay, they're diligent for the word, we're diligent for the word, okay? So if you got a brother, which, there are brothers in, in all camps that go hard, hey, man, look, go hard for the Lord too as well, man. And, it's a spiritual push, man. It's a spiritual competitiveness, that drives us to keep going. You see the next man, spiritually getting it in. Okay, you want to get it in too. Okay, you don't want to you don't want to be that sluggard, right? You don't want to be that person that's just habitually lazy, but you've been hired by the Lord and you make it in, but you're still known as being a habitually lazy person, like you barely made it. All right. Verse, I think it's the next verse. It says, okay, yeah. Verse 12, it says, that ye be not slothful, right? And it says, but followers of them who through faith and patience inherit the promises. Okay. But read the same thing in the GNT. It says, we do not want you to become lazy, okay, but to be like those who believe and are patient, right? And those that believe and are patient, those are people are what? They've increased the effort to do the work, okay? Look at the apostles, right? Look at the elders, man. These men been doing work for 30 years. 30 years, right, of doing the Lord's work consistently. Okay, they went on our highways and hedges, and elders and older men, okay, and it's still there. Okay, which shows what, their patience. It shows their diligence. Okay, so us younger brothers, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai, we pray to have that same ferventness, okay, the same type of spirit, the same type of zeal, okay, to keep going and keep pushing, man. And I believe, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai, we're at the end of this thing, okay? So, with all the prophecies that's going on. So, like I said, the title of today's lesson is Increase the Effort, and the Lord is going to do the rest, all right? All right, let's get one more. We'll close out. Okay. This is Proverbs 22 and verse 29. It says, seest thou a man diligent in his business? Okay. He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men. Okay. And when you see a man that's what? Diligent toward his business, he's going to do what? He's going to be basically amongst kings. He's going to be amongst royalty, man. Right? Now, the Lord has made us all a nation of kings, right? A nation of kings and priests. Okay. But you want to stand amongst the kings of kings. Okay. You're going to be about doing the Lord's work, man. And that's that business that's basically, mentioned here, man. It says, seest thou a man diligent in his business? Okay. And his business is what? Ultimately, right? The Father's work, man. Okay. He's makeshift, right? His lifestyle is all about doing the Lord's will. Okay. And it says he shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men. And we'll read the same thing in the GNT. It says, show me someone who does a good job, and I will show you someone who is better than most and worthy of the company of kings. That's plain, man. Okay. So we're what, in a sense, right? And while increasing the effort we're also, spiritual, competitors, man. You may see some brother up in the camp, he does a video, he says, one thing within that video, and it triggers your spirit to do a video, based off of what he says. And we're just basically all feeding off of each other, right? Spiritually. And it could be anybody, it doesn't necessarily have to be within your camp. It could be, anybody, within a brotherhood. And that's the beautiful thing of the Lord sharing the spirit, man. Right? So if you increase the effort, right, you're going through, you're trying to make up titles, right, lessons, okay, you're trying to do the Lord's work, you're increasing the effort, the Lord's going to do the rest, man. Okay. All right. I want to try to read that same. All right. Look, I got it pulled up here. Same verse in the NLT. Then we'll close. All right. This is Proverbs 22 and 29. It says, do you see any truly competent workers? They will serve kings rather than working for ordinary people. Right? So if you're a man, you're basically a man amongst men. You're basically a man amongst men that's doing the work, man. And they, because the Lord's gonna, choose, right? He's already choosing his men, right? But he's gonna recognize, even the top players, so to speak, But hey, look, they're a king, just like you're a king, So it all pans and works out, man. But he ain't gonna be with what, the scriptures say ordinary people, man. Which is basically, what more along the lines represent people, that's not in this truth, not within the body, man. A regular degular, so to speak, whatever they say nowadays, man. All right. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai. Lord willing, this is edifying first and foremost to the hopeful elect. But, again, the title of today's lesson is increase your effort, right? Increase your effort and the Lord will do the rest, man. You feeling sluggish, you're feeling, slothful, pray on it. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai, you be a man of the Lord will do the rest, man. Increase your spirit, increase your faith, increase your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Whatever it is that you're lacking at, you know what it is. Okay. Pray that the Lord helps you in that regard. And like I said, the Lord will do the rest. All right. So prior to getting out of here, we want to give all infinite honor and glory to Yahweh by Shem Yahushua by Shemar Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles at Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Peace, blessings, and salutations be to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. All right. Kwam Yasha Allah, Abba Ball, Shalom.